Amy, what is our first main topic today?
We have an email coming in from an unknown
anonymous person.
This mystery person said, "Good morning, John and crew. Hope you guys had a great 4th weekend. John, I loved hearing you and Chris Gore give your quick reactions to Thor Love and Thunder, but I saw that the review embargo has now lifted, so I was hoping you guys could give a full review of the movie now. How is Chris Hemsworth in it? How much are the Guardians in the movie? How was Russell Crowe as Zeus? Was the action any good? So many questions. Thanks."
All right, thanks for saying that in, mystery writer. All right, let me say this first and get it out of the way. As of this moment right now, Thor Love and Thunder is sitting at 69%, which there is no way you will ever be able to convince me that Taika Waititi did not arrange that.
He went in and wrote like one bad review just to get it there.
He just to make sure he's got a 69, which is, I mean, it's still positive. That means like 7 out of 10 critics like the movie, 3 out of 10 don't. We'll talk about that in a bit. But it is lower than Thor Ragnarok. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not surprised. Because one of the things that I mentioned to you guys in our quick reaction to the film before the review embargo lifted today was this. One of the things that Thor Love and Thunder clearly does is that they lean much more heavily into the silly. The silly is definitely something that Waititi did. Now, obviously, there was elements of that in Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok had some of that, but it was used in proportion, and it was used very measuredly, and it was always counterbalanced by something very heavy happening in the movie as well. This movie has heavy stuff. I mean, you're talking about dealing with cancer and all. Obviously, there's some heavy stuff going on, but it's just undeniable. You recognize within about the first 10 to 15 minutes that they really lean into it. I mean, one of the things they showed in one of the recent trailers, this is just an example of it though. Near the beginning of the film, as Thor is in battle with the Guardians of the Galaxy against some unnamed alien race, 2 ships come flying at Thor on either side, and you see Thor jump, and as the smoke clears, Thor is doing a Jean-Claude Van Damme splits with each of his feet holding back the enemy ships, right? Like, it's like that, very silly. They also do something with dumplings in this movie that is the silliest thing I've ever seen done in the MCU, to be honest with you. I told you what it was.
Can you just say dumplings again?
Dumplings.
So good.
Dumplings are delicious. And so here's the thing. Whether you will like Thor Love and Thunder will completely depend on how you as an individual are able to receive that kind of humor. For myself, Chris Gore, and a bunch of other people who were at the screening I was at, it was still really funny. The dumpling thing was really funny. The Jean-Claude Van Damme splits thing was really funny. I think about 80 to 85% of the jokes they made really landed. And so it worked for me. As long as you make me laugh, I'm good. But there are a lot of film fans that kind of humor, particularly in a comic book movie, unless it's like The Mask or something, is not what some people are looking for in their comic book movies. And for them, that doesn't hit home. And so I am not surprised at all to see that Thor Love and Thunder is hovering around the 70% mark, because I think there's going to be a lot of people. And as you read through the reviews, you can totally see it. The ones that don't like it are specifically referring to that type of humor. And the ones that do are also referring to that type of humor for why they like it. How is Chris Hemsworth in it? Look, Chris Hemsworth now owns this role. And after Thor Ragnarok, Hemsworth has talked about this before, completely reignited his love for the character. So it's not just a Taika Waititi thing. I think it's also a Chris Hemsworth thing. But Hemsworth owns it. He's great. When he needs to be the badass Asgardian warrior, he is. And then quite often he's quite silly and whatever. Christian Bale as Gore, I could have used more of him, to be honest with you. But they made the decision to clock this thing in around 2 hours. And so I certainly feel like they used him enough. I'm just saying, as somebody who loves the character and loves Chris playing it, I think it could have handled having a little bit more of Christian Bale in that. I think they probably could have done it more. Natalie Portman, she's an Academy Award winner. She's Natalie Portman. She's great. And her story, which she has talked publicly about, so this is not, spoiling, she's dealing with cancer. You know, this movie opens up. One of the things they start this movie with is the fact that she is stage 4 cancer and she's struggling. And somehow, some way, she becomes connected to Mjolnir and whatever. But using Mjolnir, again, this is something Natalie Portman's talked about publicly, it kind of makes her situation a bit worse. And so there's this balance going on, right? Tessa Thompson as King Valkyrie is great. Korg, I always love Korg. Korg, you could do an entire Disney Plus series on Korg and Meek. I would totally tune into it, so I love that. Russell Crowe as Zeus. If there is, aside from, you know, your main leads, if there is a diamond in this, to me, it's Russell Crowe as Zeus. But again, that will depend on how you take certain types of humor. Like for me, what they did with Zeus in this, I was dying laughing. And almost everybody in the theater I was in was dying laughing as well. He was great. And I would love to see more of him in the MCU on this level. The ending, I talked about this in my early reaction. The ending of the story was a little unsatisfying to me. I'd mentioned that before. The way they bring to conclusion the story of Gore and stuff like that, I was like, you could have done several different things, or at least handled it differently than you did here. Again, nothing bad. It just felt unsatisfying to me. Now, the movie continues on for about another 5 to 10 minutes after the ending of the story, and that final 5 to 10 minutes are great. And the post-credit scenes are great. So, yeah, for me, a Thor Love and Thunder coming in right around a 70% mark, completely expected. I actually expect it to probably drop down to about 65, because again, it's going to be an unforgiving line in the sand. If you can appreciate and get entertainment out of this style of humor, awesome, you're going to have a good time. If you like Dumb and Dumber and whatever, and you can get in that kind of humor, it's going to be, I think you're going to really enjoy it. If that type of humor isn't for you, or you just want, in your comic book movies, you want, my mother died when I was 5 and I got addicted to opium when I was 7 and everything is dark and bleak and all the world is death. I mean, if that's what you're looking for in your comic book movies, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's like the darkest cookie monster I've ever heard.
Nom, 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 nom. So, I mean, and sometimes I get a real kick out of those kind of movies too, but if you kind of lean that way more for your comic book movies, this ain't going to be for you. It just isn't. So, so yeah, that's where it is for me. Mm-hmm. Chris Gore said it really, really well when he said, here's what Thor Love and Thunder feels like to me. It doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like a really good episode of a Thor TV show. Mm. And I think that's accurate. Like when he said that, because you were here when he said that to me, I'm like, I never even thought about it that way. That's exactly what it felt like. Not a movie. It feels like a good, solid episode of a Thor TV series. So again, this to me, this is not as good as Thor Ragnarok. I think Thor Ragnarok was a better film. But I personally, and I think the majority of people are going to come walking out of Thor Love and Thunder having had a good time. And look, that's what I can say. I had a good time. My wife, Ann, loved it more than I did. Like she just adored this movie. I really quite like it. I'm not going to say I loved it, but I was entertained. I laughed a lot. Great ending. Again, not ending of the story, but a great ending to the movie. Really fun post-credit scenes. Good laughs. I really can't ask for much more. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of today's video, Storyblocks. Guys, I have been an enthusiastic fan and user of Storyblocks for years. I go to them whenever I'm in need of content creation assets like royalty-free music, video clips, or templates for my creative projects, ranging anywhere from little editorial videos to my very own full-feature documentary. Storyblocks helps you bring your stories, videos, and projects to life without sacrifices due to time, budget, or access to resources. They have over 1 million different story assets ranging from stock videos, audio and music, an in-browser video editor, and they feature pre-designed design templates, animations, and outros. Storyblocks uses an affordable subscription model, and their unlimited access plans offers, well, unlimited video and audio downloads rather than a costly pay-per-clip model. With Storyblocks, you'll be able to create more content and, more importantly, better content, all while using a subscription plan that fits your budget, utilizing unlimited downloads of demand-driven and diverse content. So if you're interested in upping your content creation game, head over to www.storyblocks.com/Campea and get started today. That's www.storyblocks.com/Campea. I know, Rob, you've obviously been keeping your eyes on this movie a lot. What kind of expectations do you have going into it?
Well, I mean, everything that everyone said about it being silly, I don't mind that, because there was Thor turned into a frog at one point in the comic series. I was a big fan of Simonson's run of Thor, and Thor has been all over the place in terms of a character. And obviously, we're getting Taika Waititi's interpretation of Thor.
Yeah.
And I loved Ragnarok because, like you've always pointed out, it's hilarious, but really dark at the same time. And I don't have a problem with that because Hemsworth is so good at comedy and all the characters, like the Korg character is funny. I love the Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master. I'm still waiting for the Grand Master Collector, road movie with Howard the Duck. I would watch that. And I have no problem with that. I think one of the great things about the MCU is the fact that they have set themselves up. You can do Civil War or Winter Soldier, and you can do Guardians of the Galaxy, and you can do Ant-Man and
Ms. Marvel, or
you can do Ms. Marvel, and that's the whole great thing about. And look, Thor, the original Thor, Kenneth Branagh's Thor. You always say how underrated it is.
Second most underrated comic book film, just behind Man of Steel.
It also showed that Kenneth Branagh, when you first meet the Warriors 3 and Thor, it's kind of funny. Thor is a goof, kind of. He's like, look at me. And when he first meets Jane Foster, he throws his mug on the ground. It's not like Thor's ever been like this dark, brooding, Dark Knight god. I mean, Thor has always had sort of a slightly comedic, larger-than-life kind of Shakespearean Globe theater. That's why they hired Kenneth Branagh to do it in the first place. So the fact that they lean into the silly, I like that. I mean, could they bring Thor back? Look, Thor was really, if you look at Endgame when he cuts off Thanos' head, that's not silly Thor.
Yeah.
And the fact that Hemsworth has that range, he's like the secret weapon of the Marvel Universe. So why not give us some fun? Some mirth-filled antics.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I still think the best acted scene maybe the best scene in all the MCU is in Infinity War when Thor and Rocket are in their ship and they're going to try to find Nidavellir.
Yep.
And the whole line about him, what if you're wrong? Then what else do I have to lose? Like that entire scene, I think is my personal favorite scene in the MCU. I love that.
It's a great scene, and it shows the range of the character. And so Taika Waititi's leaned in one way, someone else could do something else with him.
Amy, what's your expectation level like right now, and what are you hoping to see in a Thor Love and Thunder? Because neither of you guys have had a chance to see it yet, but where's your expectation level right now?
I'm excited. I'm Team Silly all the way. I am. I'm a big Taika Waititi fan. If I'm being honest, those first couple Thor movies felt they missed the mark just a little bit for me. Like when you're getting those glimpses of how funny Chris Hemsworth is in this role and how fun that character can be and how fun that world is, I wanted more of that.
Right.
And I wasn't loving and really jiving with that character until Thor Ragnarok, and we started leaning into that. So for me, I'm like, let's hit the gas on silly. I'm all about it because I feel like there's so much in the Marvel universe now that the more these movies feel differentiated, the more it's like, no, this is our silly, wacky comedy. At least right now, at least with Taika Waititi doing them. I think for me, that makes me way more excited to see it than feeling like, okay, it's going to be another Thor movie. There's going to be some humor, but to go, yeah, this is going to be a wacky comedy. Why not? You have someone who's so capable of doing that. So, Team Silly. Team Silly.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about that? The review embargo for Thor Love and Thunder has now ended. It's ending up right around where I thought it was going to be. Where do you think you're going to end up on this, hearing that we're talking about? Do you think this is going to be the type of thing where the humor works for you? Is it going to be the type of thing where the humor is going to work against it for you? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.